second round of the MCG.
We'll do our best 22 next week, which is always a lot of fun. But each week on the Friday Footy panel, we'll do 3 burning questions. It could be from the game the week before, the upcoming game, players' form, trade rumours, the coach, whatever it is. But let's start this week. First question. How many of the 10 returning players for you, and we'll get this confirmed next week when you do your best 22, but how many do you think are automatically in at the best 22 this season?
5 or 6?
Yeah.
I think
there's 5 locks and 5.
Yeah, I think I've a rough list, and I'll keep it under
Your hat. Yeah.
under my hat for another week. I want to see this third GLT, but I think certainly 5 locks. A couple could be specific matchups, balance of team, and then I think there's 2 or 3 that could find it difficult, that'll play less rather than more.
Now, if John Morsfold was in here and you went to John and said, John, who's the player you least afford can lose through an injury, through suspension, through loss of form this year? Who's Essendon's most important player, do you think?
Joe Danaher. Yeah, I think I'm slightly biased. A forward from way back.
What a surprise you went for a key forward.
I just think with what he was able to do, and we spoke earlier about denying the opposition the ball, time in possession, not going aggressively forward as they would have liked based on personnel, that if they move the ball quicker this year, then he's a 60-plus goal kicker, and I think they're very difficult to replace.
Well, you look at last year, as you say, Essendon was 18th for time in the forward half. They averaged about 46 inside 50s a game, the worst in the comp, and were worst for scoring. Yeah. And he's kicked 43-32, and sorry, Joe, there was probably 25 out in the full as well. So he's probably had 100 shots in a year that wasn't great.
He would have liked to have been. And if he continues to work on his kicking, that was a 60-goal season last year in that sort of team. And part of that is when we're talking about who they can least afford to lose, the other contenders didn't play last year. So they did spend time without them.
Yep.
So there is an adjustment that they were able to make. Now, if you said Joe's not in the team, the whole structure of the forward line has to change. And you don't necessarily know who's going to be your 4 or your multiple goal kicker in there.
I'm going to go for a point of difference. I'm going to say it's Zach Merritt. Well, look at the Bulldogs last year. Didn't really rely on key position players, and they won a flag. So I think you got to have your best midfielder out there. Look, Dyson might come back this year and
They might have been a 6-goal better team with Joey Danaher.
Well, they might have been.
They went and got Travis Clyde.
They went and got Travis, but we don't know if Travis is going to work yet.
No, we don't.
For mine, Zach Merritt is the one. I think as good as Dyson is, he just hurts the opposition a bit more. And I know he's going to kick 7 goals last year. You think you want a bit more on the scoreboard from Zach this year because he's very clever around goal.
I think potentially it's likely because there's a greater depth of midfield now. And with rotations coming down, although that's the second year of that, he'll spend a little bit more time up forward, no doubt. And his creativity around goals, I think you'll see. He's potentially a goal-a-game player if he spends 30% up there.
Now, third question for you, and this is a great one for you. Cale Hooker, will he be a success as a forward?
I think he will be, yes. Yeah, because he's an excellent footballer. And what I mean by that when I say footballer, he's not an excellent backman. He's an excellent footballer, and I've seen him go forward, albeit for small periods of time. It's a quarter here, a quarter there. 2 years ago,
10 weeks though, didn't he?
He did very much so. Whereas 10, 12 marks a game. So what that tells me is he reads the game well. He understands where the ball's going. He can get off his opponent, and he can find the footy. So I see no reason why he can't be a success as a forward, particularly in tandem with Joe Danaher. I think it helps one another when there's 2 of them. For any team, when there's 2 of you, more one-on-ones, less predictability with ball movement going forward is a benefit for the team.
Can he play deep and allow Joe up the ground at times? Because we've seen Joe get up the ground. He's a nice kick inside 50. He uses the ball well. He's obviously athletic.
Yeah.
Can he actually allow Joe to spend more time up the ground?
No doubt he could, because what you see with Cale is he's an imposing figure, strong. He'd be a hard matchup one-on-one deep inside forward 50. The question back is, do clubs get enough genuine one-on-ones inside? They're deep inside forward 50s with the way that defences work. And it'd be interesting to see, players generally have a certain way they like to play. Some are happy to have quiet games and stay deep to kick goals. Others feel that they need to get up the ground to get into the play. I'll be interested to see more so this year what type of player Joe Danaher is, because last year I think is not necessarily a true because the ball's not coming down. He wanted to push up and get involved, and he did that very, very well. If it is that there's more ball flow and he's staying deeper, he's a potential to be used as a target inside 50 more because he maintains that positioning, therefore more dangerous again.
Just on being a forward, one of those old Hawthorn mongrels, Dermot Brereton, said the other day, he doesn't believe one player in the comp will kick 50 goals this year. That's how tough it is to be a key forward this year. To me, that doesn't quite seem right. I think players are going to kick more than 50.
Yeah.
But is it ever been as hard to be a key forward as it is now?
I understand his point, Dooms. It is getting harder because there's less of one-on-ones and working your opponent over, and there's more helping out. So less and less do you go against your direct opponent. There's usually 3 or 4 that have sagged back into your space. So it's getting harder and harder. I still think, and we saw Josh Kennedy kick 80 plus, we've seen bags of goals in the GLT because teams are prepared to move the ball forward. So if the pressure's good, you can create some forward 50 out numbers where you've actually got more players in there because you've sweated on the turnover. So if your midfield are doing the job. So I still think that 70 goal mark is achievable. But if we look 10, 15 years ago where it was 100 plus, well, I see it very difficult for a player to get close to that.
Will anyone
again.
ever kick 100 again?
The game would have to change further again.
Now, JLT games, I guess we always look for positional changes. One that stood out against the Gold Coast was Brent Stanton playing across halfback. Someone mentioned to me the other day, could he do a Matty Boyd? Could he actually extend his career playing across halfback? He's played 248 games, pure midfielder. Yeah. But can you see him going back and being a success as a halfback?
I can, absolutely. An outstanding runner, works hard, wins the footy. I think Matty Boyd and the Bulldogs is being very much about the system helping as well. So I think there's been less of a reliance on one-on-one pure defence for a player, which has made it easier for a midfielder to go back there and play half-back rather than getting isolated on Cyril Rioli or a very dangerous small forward. So I think system's important, and that will depend slightly on how John wants to play his backs. But Stance, being the smart player he is of course he can adjust and play that role.
And I feel like with Matty Boyd when he was a midfielder, he was never a great kick, but he's gone back to half-back and he hardly misses a target. Is that probably the one knock on Stanton sometimes has been his kicking? Does that make, with a bit less pressure around the ball, does that make it a bit easier to be a better disposal across half-back?
Entirely possible. I mean, when you're at half-back, there's more width in the field, which in turn should mean more space, as opposed to when you win it through the middle of the ground, often you've got defensive players hanging off and you're trying to spot a forward further afield that's got a man right on him. So you would hope that there's more options for a half-back to split it up. Sometimes keep it simple. On the flip side, though, Jules, we're seeing the importance of half-backs needing to be able to pull the trigger and go with an aggressive corridor pick to open up the play. So I think that's the balancing act for Stance. I think he can go back there and play that role very well. At the same time, you can't have too many midfielders. So no doubt I think he would be in a rotation through the midfield at certain times.
There's a lot of half-backs, isn't there, at Essendon this year? If you look at it, Kelly, Gleeson, Goddard, Stanton, McGrath, Jackson Merritt's been playing back there, Hocking maybe back there. We'll get it next week when we see your best 22. But is there a couple there that you think have got their noses in front for that position?
I certainly think Goddard will play wing half forward. He's more inclined to play that role. We've seen him, and you talk about that third tall. Could he play that role as a marking player? I'd like to see him do that. Gleeson, I think, has to play. And then the rest are all different players. Matty D's an intercept player. James Kelly's really the general, as Stanton is. Jackson Merritt, I think they're trying him out there to see whether he can add another string to his bow. Tough to fit them all in, Jules.
Very tough, and we'll see.
We might have to move a couple to the back pocket position.
That's right, a bit like the All-Australian selectors, just shuffle them around and say they played that position. Next week, I really want to get your thoughts too on the new captain, Dyson Heppel, and what that means for Joe Boston. But just finally, well, that's a good one too. I'm going to ask you about Zaka too very shortly. But just finally, the JLT game this weekend, last hit out. Just a couple of things you're really looking for, or a couple of players you're really looking for to make a stamp before round one.
Well, we haven't seen... Joe has played limited game time, so you want to see him get through the game. If you're looking for specifics, you don't want your players to get injured, particularly your good ones. Stay safe.
Yes, exactly.
And you want to see good passages of play. You want to be able to move the ball quick and give your forwards a chance. and deny the opposition the ball when it comes in, defend well. So just the real specific fundamentals of the game you want to be sound going into the season. The pressure's good. Stoppage setups. A lot of structural things that you want to think because you've worked on your game so much. You want to see what you've worked on all pre-season. What you believe to be the foundations of your game is going to hold you in good stead for the season.
Now, as we mentioned off the top, you are a manager to some of the stars these days. One of those is David Zaharakis, who's coming out of contract this year.
Is he?
Have you and Adrian caught up yet?
We have.
Yes.
We've caught up.
Any news there for us?
No news to report, and I will be as open as I can be because I do know the loyal following that we have on our podcast, and with all of the Bomber supporters, we'll keep you updated. We will do all that we can to see him remain, but it is something we have to work through. Certainly, really one of the main reasons a lot of contracts will be held up at the minute, Jules, more broadly, is just the CBA.
CBA, yep.
What are the numbers we're dealing with? Because you have a player that fits into a team, that's okay, but then how much are you playing with basically just determines what the numbers look like. It's a numbers game, Jules.
Yeah, we'd be very surprised if Zach had left Essendon. He grew up barracking for the club. He's been very loyal, and we expect him to have a great year this year with some of his mates back. Scotty, very solid debut on the Friday Footy panel.
I'm looking forward to the year, Jules.
Absolutely. And remember, get out there on Sunday, 4:10 in Bendigo, the Power Call Country Footy Festival as well, building up to that big game in round 8, the country game, Essendon and Geelong. And, of course, get involved out at Essendon FC on the Twitter, hashtag Friday Footy panel. We want all your questions for next week when we have a really serious preview of season 2017.